Well, hello and welcome to another episode of A Less Is More. Bit different this one. We've got a camera rolling. This is going to be a video and an audio. So if you're listening on Spotify, thank you so much for joining us back for A Less Is More. I think it's episode 14. And thank you for all the support on the previous episode with my interview of Peter Ferrier from Harris Scarf. 50 years is such an achievement, and I'm so grateful to get the opportunity to work with him, but also to interview him, sit down and get a bit of knowledge. And I'm not one to stick around and hopefully be at Harris Scarf for 50 years, but nonetheless he was such a great guy to talk to, and you can see how much passion he has for the job he is doing. So let's hope whoever's out there, whoever's listening, and whoever saw that story is inspired and can stick to their area of expertise and can stick around for 50, 60 years in that, because once you perfect something, you don't really want to move out of it because you're so good at it. So he's done an amazing job, and it was so great to talk to him. But today, a little bit different. We've got a video going, as I said, a little bit of a different format. We're going to be talking about Formula One and the talk around what's happening with the contract of it possibly going to Sydney. Obviously, we know it's coming back to Melbourne in 2022, April 7 to 10. It's going to be a massive weekend. Pretty sure I'm going to be attending, so I look forward to doing that for the first time ever. And it's been a massive missing piece in the calendar of Formula One, and also for Australian sport in general. That's such a big event for the Victorian government, and also just around Australia, all the Formula One fans around. So I look forward to seeing that come back in 2022. But the talk around it is that there's a possibility that after the 2025 contract runs out in Melbourne, that Sydney could be pushing for an opportunity to hope to host the Grand Prix. So that'll be interesting to see. So I've seen the plans that Sydney have in their racetrack, and the big promotion about how they'll possibly do it near the Sydney Harbour Bridge and get all that area blocked off, and I think they'll go across one of the sides of the bridge and into the suburban area that's on the other side, and I think it's the opposite to the Sydney Opera House. So it'll be a massive event if it went to Sydney. There's a lot more people that could attend, and it's a different variety in Sydney. And I know locally the supercars have raced around Homebush and Stadium Australia, and that's been a massive hit over the years. And a great racing has happened there, and the weather seems to be a lot more variable than it is in Victoria. But I think essentially it's another street circuit, and it's the thing with Albert Park is has such a variable track. It's twisty, it's turny. I don't think there are words that can greatly describe an F1 track, but it's got a whole lot of high-speed corners, low-speed corners, and I know they've updated the track layout for 2022, and it's going to be a lot more pacey with the 2022 regulations in Formula One. And if you don't know a lot about Formula One and are listening, this year, currently, they've got different regulations at the moment, and into 2022, they'll be changing those, and the cars will be a lot different. It'll be a lot more driver-driven than mechanically driven with technology as such. So it'll be all on the driver. So the cars will be a lot slower, but also with these track layout changes that are happening not only at Albert Park, but also across in other racetracks as well, allow for the cars to be a lot more suitable and can adapt a lot easier. And there'll be a lot more driver errors, which is going to be great to see, and it'll even up the competition as well and create a lot more opportunities for other teams to win, not just Red Bull or Mercedes, who are currently winning at the moment. It's a great championship, by the way. I'm actually getting up at 5:30 in the morning to watch some of these races, which back in the day I wouldn't do that because the championships have been boring for the last 6 years with Mercedes dominating. But now with Red Bull doing such a great job, and the championship being so close, and the competition's become a lot tighter as well. McLaren, Ferrari, and even like the likes of Aston Martin and Alpine have been around the mark. So it's great to see, and I think going into 2022, a lot more of these teams will have the opportunity to win. But the question I ask today is, should F1 be brought back to Adelaide? like this is a question that's been asked for the last couple of years now with Melbourne and Albert Park and Victorian government losing the opportunity to hold the race in the last couple of years due to COVID. And I think it was a perfect opportunity for maybe Adelaide to have an opportunity, or the South Australian government to try and poach a race or two, because our COVID resume has been pretty good over the last couple of years. And I know Talent Ben's held a lot of races for different categories, including the supercars. And I know the borders were pretty strict, but a lot of exemptions could have been made. No crowds as such, but a lot of tracks around the world that don't normally hold F1 races were held in the last couple of years, and they became fan favourites, and the racing was so electric. So to bring it back to Adelaide would be such an opportunity, and with the contract running out in 2025, and there's no more supercars racing at Victoria Park in Adelaide, and the Adelaide Street Circuit hasn't been used. I know the curbs are still in different parts of the city, and the Victoria Park precinct has been held for, racing. I wouldn't call it racing, actually. It's probably just been a car park for COVID testing for the last 18 months. And I think the government at one stage wanted to get rid of it, which was so stupid, because for the last 30 years, it's been such an iconic piece in the Adelaide history, because you've held Formula One. The last race that was held in Adelaide for Formula One was 1995. It started in 1985, and the likes of Senna, Schumacher, Prost, Mansell, they've all raced in Adelaide. It's been one of their favourite tracks, and a lot of people have come out and said, I think Martin Brundle even as well came out and said Adelaide's one of his favourites, that he used to come and race. And even Murray Walker, the late Murray Walker, one of the great commentators of Formula One, came out and said Adelaide's such an amazing track, and the atmosphere was so electric. And Australians are different. We bring a lot more passion. You can see that with the supercars. They go to different racetracks, and when they used to come to Adelaide, a lot of the supercars folklore, like your Cromptons, your Scafes, they always used to say, when every time we come here, it was the biggest race in Australia. Like, we know Bathurst is such a big track and such a big, iconic day and weekend for the supercars calendar, but they used to talk up Adelaide as if it was the primary event on the calendar. You'd open the season up in March, and the weather would be variable. One day it'd hail, the other day it'd be sunny, 40 degrees. The next day it'd be 17 and cold, and it's just moments that create history like that just remind you of how good Adelaide is as a hosting place. And when you've got the supercars gone, the government takes away the race. It was so piss poor. I mean, it's cutting costs, but what are you cutting costs for? It pumps in so much money, and I've heard a lot of arguments saying a lot of people are happy that it's gone. Why is it? March used to be such a frenzy. You'd have the Fringe, you'd have people come from the Clipsal to the Fringe. It'd be a massive day, a massive weekend when the Clipsal 500 or the Adelaide 500 was raced, and it's such a shame that it's gone. And same with Formula One. I bet I was not born when Formula One left Adelaide and went to Albert Park. When it went to Albert Park in 1996 to Melbourne, I bet the same thing happened. There was a lot of outcry and a lot of disappointment, and still today a lot of people talk about bring F1 back to Adelaide. F1 is the pinnacle of motorsport. You're not going to bring Formula E, you're not going to bring MotoGP to the streets of Adelaide, you're not going to bring DTM or anything like that. You're going to bring Formula One because it's the pinnacle of motorsport. You hear Formula One, you think of racing, you hear of cars, you think of motorsport, and that's what the pinnacle is. It's the highest motorsport in the world, the most popular. And a few years ago, a lot of people were calling it dead, and now it's come back to life with such a great championship rivalry, as I spoke about before. But you talk about having history and having great opportunities to bring something back that was so loved and so such a good moment in Adelaide history. In Formula One around the streets. It used to be a different layout back then, and the cars might be a little bit different, but they'll adapt. You can adapt the streets, and it's such a shame that it's gone from Adelaide. I wish I got the opportunity. And as I said, I never attended a Formula One event around the world. Melbourne. I wasn't born when Adelaide was here. So I think if there was an opportunity to bring it back, the contract running out in 2025 for Melbourne to host it, I'm sure they'll renew it in Melbourne. But if you want to throw your hat in the ring, if Sydney's throwing their hat in the ring to race around the edges of the Sydney Harbour Bridge on a street circuit, which I think Formula One's got enough of, and I still think Victoria have the best circuit. No, if it raced in Adelaide, yet another street circuit, but for me, it's Adelaide, it's home, and having the race here would be such a great opportunity. But you look at it with such a, I don't know, biasness to bring it back here, and I think the track layout would be a bit boring for Formula One nowadays. If you want to get negative about it. But if the supercars are not going to return, you got to bring some sort of motorsport to Formula to Adelaide, and why not Formula One? Why not have the opportunity to host one of the best motorsports, best sports in the world, and it'll bring so much money. And I know when I go there in April next year, it's going to be such a great event to attend, and so many celebrities attend, so much money is poured into it, and so many different opportunities come from it. And the tourism factor as well, with a lot of borders opening up. You're going to have a lot of people travel into Victoria now, fully vaxxed, of course. So it's a great opportunity, and why not in a few years' time when things have even more settled down, that you get the opportunity to host an event. And look, if it's not going to be around the streets of Adelaide, why not Tailem Bend? I think it's a great precinct, and a few more grandstands. The variable nature of the track is pretty good. The supercars, ever since they've been there, have been great fun to watch, and the racing's pretty good. And it's a typical motorsport circuit, and it's a great opportunity for fans to travel out into into Tailem Bend and surrounding areas. Great opportunity for the hills to come alive and have an opportunity to host such a big event, and enough money, and it could be. I think a lot of people would like that. Just to have an opportunity to attend one of these races would be great. And it's such a shame that we lost it all those years ago, because I'd be there. I'd be attending. I'd be wearing me McLaren shirt, my Daniel Ricciardo hat, as I got on. All good, always. And I'd be attending. So it's interesting. I do think it should come back to Adelaide. I'd like to see it come back to Adelaide. Whether or not that ever happens in my lifetime again will be something to see. I don't think with this government we'll have any opportunity to do it. But I'm not going to get political about it. That's not my forte. So we'll see what happens. I know they're keeping the Victoria Park precinct. So there's an opportunity to take away the COVID testing site and put in a Formula One track again, or even bring back the supercars. An opportunity to pump more money back in. Host it at a different time of the year. If you can't host it in March, host it in September, October. I know it's difficult with the footy season, but there's times you can do it, and I think that's a great opportunity for the government. So we'll wait and see what happens, but vote 1, bring back Formula One to Adelaide. It'd be such a great thing, and I know the newer generation would be great to see it as well. I have a few F1 mates who'd love to see it, and there was little rumours around in 2020, 2021 that the possibility of even Tailem Bend hosting it was a great opportunity, because they held the supercars still through COVID at Tailem Bend. There's an opportunity, as I keep saying. But, hey, I'm not running the government. I'm not running the opportunity to bring Formula One back to Adelaide. But I'd love to see it. It's a great track. A lot of great memories there, both with supercars and obviously in the earlier days, Formula One. So we'll wait and see. But I really hope that they do bring some form of motorsport to Adelaide. Can't keep going go-karting or something. That's just not good enough. Need the thrill and the excitement and the loud engine noises and the good girls. Well, thank you for listening and watching this episode of A Less Is More. Should F1 come back to Adelaide? Let me know what your thoughts are, and maybe there's an opportunity. I know there's a few Facebook groups as such lying around. There's an Adelaide GP Facebook and Twitter page that's I love following and seeing all the great memories from 20, 30 years ago. And Schumacher won his championship in 1994, that famous moment with Damon Hill. There's a lot of historical moments that have happened in this state on that track, and it's such a shame that it's not still going? So, yeah, bring F1 back to Adelaide, I say. Thank you for listening to Less is More. We'll see you, or you'll hear from me, and you'll see me in the next episode. Have a good one.